Hello, my true crime lovelies. I am so sorry I'm late. You can guess, or at least you have three guesses as to why I'm late. And the first two don't count. Yeah, that was a good guess. How is everybody? I can see an ad for a makeup artist coming out. Oh my god. I hope not. I hope not, Trinity. Goodness gracious. Look at all the new members in here. I'm going to flash you guys all up. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Is it Isis and Remy? Drunky the Bear, I love that name. SD, Barbara Ellison, Yawning Greyhound, Pretend Judge, Amelia, welcome, welcome. So I have two options. We can continue talking about the hearing, chit chat about that, or we can go over some of the discovery. I did find the information about the syringe, and I was thinking we could go over that. But if you guys want to keep talking about the hearing and the motions, I can pull some of those up and we can talk about that. Let me know. Hey, AKA the cat lady. I know. Oh my God. It was quite the day. I'm just glad it's Friday, quite honestly. So yeah, I guess maybe I should make a poll and then we'll see what we want to talk about. Are you all done? Okay. Let's see if I can figure this out with one hand. How to get this poll going. This little guy. All done? All done? All done. Hang on, guys. I'm going to get the poll up. Bama Green Eyes, I'm struggling with this poll. Do you see how to make a poll? I just want to know if we want to continue talking about the. And now I'm echoing myself. Let's see. How about this? If you want to continue talking about it, put a one. Continue talking about the hearing and the motions that were discussed. Or if you want to go through discovery, I said press one. Oh my God. Put a one in the chat. If you want to talk about the discovery, put a two in the chat. Okay, no worries. One, and we got a one and a two. 1, 2, 3, 4. Today's dramatic, ridiculous happenings really irked me. I'm fine with whatever. Okay. So one or two. Okay, so let's do two because I feel like we've got more. And then we can, if anyone has a burning desire to talk about the hearing, we can do that too. So this hopefully is showing for you guys. Yeah. So one of the things I realized today is Sarah said her phone was downstairs when she woke up. I'm just gonna go back a little bit. So we'll do Brian, what he said, and then we'll do what Lucas said. So on February 24th, 2020, 15:25, so 3:25 is when Brian was interrogated, right, or interviewed. And so we know Sarah was still on site, at least because I believe she left with Brian. So Detective Scott Lowen and I conducted an audio recorded interview with Brian Boone, located in my unmarked agency vehicle outside of 4748 France Court, apartment 3. Brian Boone has known Sarah Boone since he was approximately 23 years old. Brian and Sarah legally divorced approximately a year and a half ago. So that would have been 2018. Or is that right? No. Yeah. But have been separated prior to that. Brian and Sarah share one child in common, Lucas Boone, 9 years old. So I was confused if he was 8 or 9. Okay, honey. Brian stated that there's a custody agreement and they are supposed to rotate each week. He stated Lucas does not like to stay at his mother's residence, and even though they have the custody agreement, Lucas is mainly with him. Last time Lucas stayed with Sarah was on Tuesday, February 18th. Brian stated Sarah was very unreliable with the custody agreement and picking Lucas up from school on the day she was supposed to. Brian said he would have to repeatedly call Sarah to see if she was going to pick Lucas up when it was her responsibility to pick him up. He kind of enabled her because, like, what was, if you didn't call, what was going to happen? She just, like, I know he was looking out for Lucas, but in a way, every time Sarah knew she was going to get a reminder or a call, and then she could duck out once she got the call if she didn't feel like doing it. You know what I'm saying? So on the day in question, February 24th, Brian began to call Sarah repeatedly starting at 11:25 hours, again at 12:21 and 12:49. Sarah answered the last phone call at 12:39, which I think it's supposed to be 49, and they spoke for 32 seconds, and again at 12:54 hours for 19 seconds. Brian said the first phone call she accepted at 12:49 hours was Sarah telling him George was dead, and she begged him to come over. Brian hesitantly agreed to go over to Sarah's residence since he resided nearby. Sarah called Brian back at 12:54 hours, asking if he was on his way. Brian confirmed he was leaving his residence. When he arrived, he walked into the foyer and saw George lying unresponsive on the living room floor. Sarah called 911 immediately and never discussed the details of what occurred. So I'm guessing never discussed it with Brian. Sarah did not discuss with Brian what occurred because she called 911. Brian did not feel comfortable staying inside the residence, so he stepped outside and waited. Oh my God. Okay. And waited for law enforcement to arrive on scene. Brian said Sarah was an alcoholic, that she did not know how to only have one drink, which is like the sign of, if you've ever been to an AA meeting, they'll tell you, like, you can't drink like, if you can't drink like a gentleman, i.e. one drink, you should not be drinking. She would continue to drink. Let me make sure I'm not flashing on my camera. Oh my God. Yes, she did. Oh my God. I'm trying to heart this one. Yes, she did beg him for money. It was like 11 something. Oh my God. Hang on, guys. Brian's, let's see. Back. She would continue to drink and would become aggressive. Brian said Sarah would initiate fights with him when they were together, and she was under the influence of alcohol. Sarah would punch him and scratch him. Brian also described George to be an alcoholic too. Brian said Sarah would often have bruises on her and that Sarah had called law enforcement on George multiple times. Brian said he felt Sarah was the main aggressor, but George could not control his anger and would strike Sarah back. Brian recalled the last physical altercation he knew about was when George was arrested before the holidays in 2019. Yeah, that was his last one, and that was for violating the no contact order. Brian and Sarah called him often. Brian said Sarah called him often when she was intoxicated, and approximately 1 week ago called him stating she had to escape her residence and asked Brian to come get her. He declined, and she never brought up the phone call afterwards, which is unusual because she seems like one to harp on stuff, right? Brian said he did not have a relationship with George and they would not speak to one another. Brian said he dealt with Sarah for the sake of their child, Lucas. Brian said Sarah had been an alcoholic since Lucas was born. I swear, he was asleep. Hang on, guys. The child is here, if you guys haven't figured out. There's your warning. Okay, so this is where she says she actually left her phone downstairs, which I know some of you guys had said you don't think she went upstairs, so it's possible. She definitely would have had to make that last phone call at 11:46 to Brian downstairs if that's where the phone was, right? So at 16:57 hours, Detective Scott Lowen, so this is 4:57, Sarah is still on scene. And I conducted an audio recorded interview with Sarah Boone located in my unmarked agency car. The following is a synopsis of Sarah Boone's sworn recorded statement. I read verbatim to Sarah her constitutional Miranda warning. Sarah agreed she understood what I had just read to her. At approximately 4 on the 23rd, Sarah was located at her residence along with her boyfriend, George Torres Jr., who also resides at the apartment. Only Sarah and George were located at the residence. Sarah's son, Lucas, would sometimes be at her residence when it was her day per the custody agreement she has with her ex-husband. Sarah said she and George were painting pictures and completing a puzzle while sharing a bottle of Woodbridge Chardonnay wine. As the evening went on, Sarah said her and George decided to play a game called hide and seek. Sarah hid upstairs in her shower first and said George never came to look for her. After a while, she decided to go downstairs where she found George. Sarah and George both thought it would be funny if she zipped George in the blue suitcase that was located downstairs in the living room area that had a few miscellaneous items they had planned to donate. George willingly got into the suitcase and Sarah zipped the suitcase up, but 2 of George's fingers were able to stick out of the suitcase. So the whole fingers, I think she made that up. But then a lot of you guys were saying the suitcase, we heard the neighbors, right? It was upstairs and it was kept in the closet. So it feels like this part is where she's starting to alter the story, right? So if she was in the shower upstairs, the suitcase was upstairs, George was upstairs. He got in the suitcase upstairs and she zipped him up. I don't think his fingers were out because going down the stairs with your fingers out would break your fingers. I mean, not that he had them out at the time, but I just feel like she made that up later. George willingly got into the suitcase and Sarah zipped the suitcase up. On the 911 call, she says, I put him in the suitcase. But the 2 fingers were out. Sarah and George were both laughing that she zipped him into the suitcase. Sarah explained the attached handle that made it easier to zip. So it's actually a zipper pull that they're talking about. Like, I don't know if you guys will be able to see with my background on, but like this part, the zipper pull. On February 24th at approximately 00 hours, so 12, Sarah decided she was going to go upstairs while George was still located in the suitcase, thinking he could get out himself. Sarah lay down in her bed and fell asleep approximately 20 to 30 minutes after going upstairs. She assumed he was going to get out of the suitcase and come to bed. Sarah said neither her nor George were drunk. from their wine consumption. Well, she sounded lit up like a Christmas tree in the video. She woke up in the morning and heard her cell phone ringing multiple times, but ignored the call. Sarah said her cell phone was left downstairs from the night prior. She knew her ex-husband, Brian, was calling because he was the only person who called her repeatedly to see if she was getting their son, Lucas, from school. Sarah said she stayed upstairs for a while and assumed George was downstairs at the laptop looking for employment. Sarah said she went downstairs at approximately 1100 hours and realized she could not find George anywhere in the apartment. She freaked out, remembered the last time she saw George was when she zipped him in the suitcase. Sarah unzipped the suitcase and found George unresponsive. So coming downstairs for the first time at 11, she's a smoker. She would be dehydrated. So I don't think she woke up and laid in the bed like she's saying she did, because she would have wanted to get up and do all of those things. And then I'm wondering, based on that one neighbor that was on the other live, like, did she even brush her teeth? Like, maybe that's why her breath was bad all the time. She called Brian back, told him George was dead, and begged him to come to her residence. So in Sarah's rendition of it, she's calling him back, and Brian, she picked up the last call, which is what the call logs actually show. She's a little off on the sequence. So he lives a few minutes away, which is interesting because they had the house together, and then Sarah and George got this apartment. So she intentionally got one close, presumably for Lucas, but it just seems sort of disrespectful. Like, this guy that you're seeing while you're still married, those separated, you move him really close to your ex-husband or about to be ex-husband at the time, and your son, right? Boundaries. When Brian got to the residence, he walked into the apartment, saw George unresponsive on the floor, and told Sarah she needed to call 911. Brian then immediately walked outside and stayed there until law enforcement arrived, while Sarah followed the instructions from the 911 operator. And we know on the 911 call, she was like, wait, don't leave. That was Brian, like, walking outside, right? Sarah said her and George would drink daily and have a couple of glasses of wine. Sarah said there was a bottle of the same wine filled approximately halfway that was left over from a different night. It was left over most likely from the night before, because there's a receipt in the 3 Publix receipts from the night before. Sarah said her and George drank the rest of that bottle and a full second bottle of wine. She doesn't mention the then third bottle of wine because there's 3 receipts. So they had 2.5 bottles of wine. And some of you all think she had vodka too, but I haven't found anything on that yet. Sarah had no knowledge of George's health, but was concerned because he was beginning to lose his teeth and complained of his chest hurting. Sarah believes he was stressed from being without employment the past couple of weeks. She said they last had an argument last week over him being stressed, which I think is the curtain rod thing that she mentioned. Sarah said her and George normally went to bed at the same time. George would sometimes stay downstairs for an extra 30 to 45 minutes, probably for some peace and quiet, girl. But they slept upstairs in their bedroom every night together. Sarah said George normally woke up first, and he would normally get up at approximately 6:30 or 630 hours. So she gave the verbal and written consent for her phone and affidavits. Digital forensic investigator Junella Udon responded to the scene, began to download the phone. While the phone was being downloaded, so we read this the other night for those of you guys who weren't on here, but they at this point is when they found the videos while it was being downloaded. So these were not deleted videos, right? It was just a regular download. Apparently Sarah just forgot she took them. First video began recording on February 23rd, 2020 at 23:12 hours, 11:12. The video was directed at the blue suitcase located, I'm not going to go through all that. The second video was at 23:23 hours. And that video was 22 seconds long. Somewhere today, I saw that they did download the Samsung cell phone. I think it's in this document, but it was Sarah's iPhone XS and then the Samsung cell phone that was found in the suitcase at the residence and the Lenovo laptop. So on that same day at 15:09, so 3:09, which is before they got in the elevator, in the car with Sarah, right? The digital device search e-warrant was signed by Judge John Kest. A copy of the signed warrant was given to digital forensic investigator Udon. So I want to look at this because there's a part. Sorry, I'm going to scroll up. It might be later. I should have written down the page numbers. So his injuries, he had long nail scratches to his mid-upper back, a large nail scratch to the back of his head, contusions to his left shoulder, left skull, and forehead contusions considered blunt force trauma, and a cut near his busted lip. So his lip was busted and cut. So the next day, Tuesday, she drove herself down there. I'm going to skip ahead. There's something else. Because this is the interrogation. Hold on, I'm going to take it because I know you guys don't like the scroll. So let me put myself back over here while I go through this. Because there was something else where I found the needle. Okay, let's go through the Publix video first and then we'll do that. I'm way down here. I was trying not to have my thing going. Doing a whole lot. Goodness gracious, too many windows open. Okay. Publix video surveillance. On February 26, 2020, Detective Scott Lowen and I responded to Publix located at 4000 North Goldenrod Road. Forensic investigator Rough Garden found two separate Publix receipts. It says recipes, but they mean receipts for Chardonnay wine purchased on February 23rd, 2020 in Sarah's trash can. One receipt was on February 23rd, 2020 at 12:17. So that's the one after she called Brian around 11:40 or something for money. The second receipt was on February 23rd at 17:39, so 5:39. Detective Lowen and I met with Devin Jamro, who he works at Publix, who reviewed the secure, and he was on the witness list. So they reviewed it at the Publix in the secured surveillance system that it was kept in, or in a room with this, you know what I mean. So at 12:17, George and Sarah are seen on video surveillance purchasing the Woodbridge Chardonnay wine bottle. This one is the one that Sarah doesn't remember or she intentionally omitted. On the February 23rd, the one at 5:39, only George was seen on video surveillance purchasing the Woodbridge Chardonnay wine. So this person who works at Publix signed off on it. I'm going to skip through Brandon. So I want to get to... So these, on February 23rd, 2020, the majority of the phone calls during the day that were placed and received were to Brian Boone. Now, presumably she's with George all this time. So why does she keep calling Brian? So starting at 11:52 hours and continuing until 19:20. On February 23rd, 2020 at 19:24, so 7:24, a phone call was placed to a person labeled Cookie, per George's family is one of his daughter's nicknames. I think it's the younger daughter. At 19:25 hours, a phone call was placed to Ana Victoria Torres, that's his oldest daughter, which is another daughter of George's. At 19:30, a phone call was placed to Juanco, which is his brother, Juan Torres, who gave the interview. They spoke for 4 minutes and 6 seconds. George called both of his daughters again after 2000 hours, 8 o'clock. The last phone call placed on February 23rd 2020 was to Brian Boone at 23:46. So that's after George has been in the suitcase since 12 minutes after 11. Now we're 46 hours after 11, or 11:46. You know what I'm saying? On the 24th, Sarah's cell phone received 4 missed calls from Brian Boone starting at 11:25 until 12:22. Sarah received a call from Brian at 12:49, which was answered and lasted for 32 seconds. Sarah called Brian back at 12:54, so 10 minutes later, and that call lasted for 20 seconds. Sarah called 911 at 12:59 hours, and that was a last call place. So 12:54 is when she called Brian back. We know she didn't call 911 until he got there, so that he got there in like 5 minutes. Maybe he was already on his way. I can't remember his statement. So on March 1, 1636, I called Brian Boone in reference to the phone call he received on February 23rd at 23:46. So they want to know what that last call was because they know George was in that suitcase. And if Sarah's downstairs, is George still making noise at that point, or is it he already dead? The following is a synopsis of Brian Boone's audio recorded sworn statement. Brian recalls Sarah calling him, but he was woken up by the phone call. Brian said Sarah sounded inebriated. Brian said he zoned her out during the phone call, trying to get her off the phone because he was sleeping. I asked Brian if he recalled anything Sarah said to him. Brian replied he did not recall. Brian said Sarah would call often when she was intoxicated, and he would do his best to get her off the phone as quickly as he could. That's the call he deleted from his call log. Okay, so important facts. February 23rd, George was having a conversation with his brother, Juan Torres, when Sarah became hostile with him, and ultimately George hung up the phone. And this, I feel like, is an example of the triangulation that we talked about with this, with Sarah and everybody in her life. It's all about her. And so, like, for her, Juan would be taking George's time away from Sarah, right? On February 23rd at 23:12, Sarah recorded the first video of George locked in the suitcase. George repeatedly yelled out Sarah's name. We all saw the video. The suitcase was in a different position for the second video at 23:23. Hey, sir, are you playing with your bus? Do-do-do. Do-do-do. Okay. On February 24th, Sarah admitted to playing hide and seek with George. Sarah said they both thought it would be funny to zip George up in the suitcase. Yes, sir. She secured the suitcase by the broken zipper, but believed George, sir, I don't know what's happening, could get out. She said she and George were not intoxicated. Okay, she did not remember the video. So this is how they get to she did commit the murder. This wasn't signed until March 5th, even though it happened on the 24th. But February is only 28th. I don't know what is happening, sir. Is that funny to you? Is that funny? Mm-hmm. So this is Devin. Are you mad that I'm not talking to you? I don't know why you're screaming like that. This is the store manager at Publix. What is this called? His signed statement about the videos. This is Sarah's sworn affidavit. We went over this the other night about the phone when she said they could take it. This is the Cellbrite extraction. And this, I believe, is what I think Sarah was looking at over and over again. Do you want that? I want you to stop squawking like a bird, sir. Where she said she couldn't find the videos. So where they know the person's name, it has it. So like this is his daughter. These are the ones, and you guys are saying she didn't have her phone anymore, and you were right. So that's why Sarah couldn't answer those because the detectives had her phone at that point. So 12:54 was her last call to Brian. And then 9 minutes later, at 12:59, it's in reverse. She called 911, and that was an 8-minute call. So here's what the call log says, right? So this one is from Brian at 12:49, and she answered it, even though she says she called Brian. This is also Brian. So you see all of these from Brian not answered. All done? Okay. Thank you. I don't know why you need to give it to me if you're all done. Okay. 11:25 not answered from Brian. That was the first one. We looked at this one. I was wondering if he had two phones and he was calling her from both of them. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna stop reading because I think it's making him want to scream, which is gonna drive me batty. I'm gonna read your comments now. Is this the video? It was 2 minutes and 22 seconds, I believe, Bama Green is. I watched Vinny in between our times, and he was saying, what did he say? He implied that it was longer. Sir, I hear you. I don't know why you're doing that. You're scaring me, kind of. I know. I don't know what's happening with that baby. That the call was deleted. I only heard rumors. So let me look at the. I think. Oh Lord, I'm gonna have to stop that because he's. Every time I talk to you guys, he makes that noise. Yeah, and the one of the doctors on Vinny tonight said that those last ones, and it takes energy, and you're panicking, and you have less fresh oxygen in there because that cloth seemed relatively thick, and so he wasn't getting fresh air. He was panicking, so she said that would have sped up the death process. Um, thank you, Northwest. So yeah, I can't remember. I'm just gonna like go. This is not Sarah. I mean, this is not Brian's call log. This is Sarah's. Oh God. So there's that part, but let me just see. There's gonna be scrolling. I'm gonna scroll on mute though. Hold on. This is the list of everybody who was in the house, so they have to rule out their if their DNA is found, right? Mm. 23 people were in that crime scene working it. The death investigation. So these are the three people that were on scene when the investigation began. It was George, Sarah, and Brian. Oh, that's interesting. They put his race as black. Huh. Normally, Hispanic people are listed as white, and then you have another caveat. But that's interesting. Place of birth, Pennsylvania. Sarah was born in Georgia, even though it says unknown here. And I didn't know Brian was born in Florida. So Deputy Rodriguez, that's Kayla. That's the first one who got there. She got there at 9 after 1 o'clock in reference to an unresponsive male. Upon my arrival, I made contact with Orange County Fire Rescue exiting the home. They advised me that the male inside was beyond medical help and pronounced him dead prior to my arrival at 13:07. So if they got there at 12:59 and they pronounced him dead at 13:07, I mean, we heard it a bit on the 911 when they were like, he's, beyond help. But yeah, she made contact with Sarah Boone, which is other two on that list outside of the home. Sarah stated that she is the live-in girlfriend of George. They've been in a relationship for 3.5 years and have no children. So is that true, you guys? Because I haven't found anything on them from 2017. I know they kept saying they had been together that long, but even their lease was like just renewed, or Sarah's lease. It was because if you look at the eviction paperwork, it says that lease had just been signed in January of 2020. And the other lease was 2018. So I'm just trying to figure out, when did they actually meet? Like, do we have anybody's word other than Sarah's? This is what they're trying to get removed from Kayla Rodriguez, where Sarah went on to explain that she and George were putting together puzzles. And remember, she was like, puzzles? The officer was on the evening of 2/23. They also drank a bottle of wine at approximately 0:30, 000, oh my God, 12:30 hours. The two of them decided to play hide and seek, which is not right because they did it at 11 something. George got into a suitcase in the living room. So she's changed it since the 911 call, because on the 911 call, she says, I put him in a suitcase. Sarah zipped the suitcase from the outside. George and Sarah both began to laugh once he was inside. Sarah then went upstairs and fell asleep. In the morning, Sarah realized she forgot to take George out of the suitcase. I asked her when she did CPR, and she yelled, this morning when I found him. I then pointed out that it was currently approximately 1 o'clock. I asked if she was doing CPR all morning prior to calling 911. Oh my God, I can't. She stated yes. Sarah then immediately changed what she previously said, and stated that she woke up in the morning but never went downstairs. Around noon, she went downstairs, and that's when she realized George was still in the suitcase. She took him out and began CPR. Prior to calling 911, she called her ex-husband, Brian Boone, other three. Brian arrived and told her to call 911, which she did. I made contact with Brian. Brian stated that he received a phone call from Sarah at 13:59. Sarah explained to him what was going on, so he went to the house. He walked a few feet into the front door and was able to see George's legs. Oh, God. Brian then told Sarah she needed to call 911. Upon entry into the house, I observed George on his back, laying in the downstairs living room. His eyes were partially open. Oh, his body was discolored. I observed a small amount of blood on his lips and around his mouth. His lip appeared to have a small amount of broken skin. His eyes were red. A protective sweep was conducted of the home, and no one else was located inside of the residence. Homicide Detective HO23 was notified and arrived on scene. So that's either Chelsea or Scott. Forensics was notified and arrived on scene. And then the incident report. This is 1301. Deputy Sheriff Kayla Rodriguez. And this is the other guy. Wait, who is this? This is the male that showed up with her. It doesn't have his name yet, does it? Oh, yeah, it does. John Martinez. So you have Kayla Rodriguez and John Martinez. So he showed up with Kayla Rodriguez. Oh, they were dispatched at 3:01. I was like, wait, didn't she say they got there after 1? Okay. Upon arrival, Rescue 63 on the scene, along with Deputy Sheriff Rodriguez. Wait, I thought he was Rodriguez. No, Kayla. Oh my God. What did we say his name was? Martinez. Sorry, sir. Um, The victim, later identified as George Torres, was found unresponsive and was eventually pronounced dead at approximately 13:07. I then entered the townhome and observed the discolored body of Mr. George Torres next to a blue luggage. I then assisted Deputy Sheriff Rodriguez with establishing a crime scene. So that's when he was pulling out that yellow tape and Sarah was sitting outside. I think he was like telling her to calm down or something. Oh, I roped off the front entrance of the unit with yellow crime scene tape. I also maintained a contamination log, which we just saw, and activated my camera several times during the course of this investigation. I was then present when Kayla Rodriguez conducted her initial investigation. At that time, I heard Rodriguez speaking with Sarah Boone. I overheard Sarah say that she and George were playing hide and go seek sometime around midnight. During the game, she stated George went into a suitcase and she zippered him up. Sarah said that she fell asleep soon after that. When she woke up this afternoon, she realized that George was still in the suitcase. She then unzipped the suitcase and noticed that George was not moving. Oh my God. She pulled him out and began to perform CPR on him. At some point, OCFR, Orange County Fire Rescue, was called, and CPR was further instructed over the phone until medics arrived on the scene. The scene was later turned over to homicide detectives for further investigations. This was the end of my involvement. This is Chelsea Connolly, also Copsel. I think Copsel is her married last name. Okay, I'm going to skip this. I want to get to the suitcase. This is the phone again. This was the preliminary autopsy. Long nail scratches to his mid-upper back, a large nail scratch to the back of his neck, contusions to his left shoulder, left skull, and forehead contusions, considered blunt force trauma, and a cut. I feel like that's exact cut and paste from earlier. She denied intentionally leaving him in the suitcase. See, now here they have his race as white. That's so weird to me. So George Torres Jr., victim, race white, sex male, date of birth 213, ethnicity Hispanic. That's what I was missing. But yeah, usually it has it as if you're Hispanic, it's white or non-white. But anyway, it's the details for me. And then this one, Lisa DeLeon, who's an officer there. On February 25th. Oh, she transported Sarah, I believe, at 16:50, so 4:50. She responded to the Sheriff's Office Central Operations in reference to transporting an individual for our homicide detectives. Upon arrival, I made contact with the defendant in our interview room. I placed handcuffs on her. I completed a victim notification card while at the jail. I took no further action. I think that's just procedure because I don't know how you're notifying a dead person unless his family was also listed, which is just they have to notify, the jail has to notify the victim when there's domestic violence when that person is released. So this is another incident report entered by Jillian Berry. Assignment, major case, domestic violence. Parent 1, Brian Boone, white male. Oh, he's 6'1". No way he's 140 pounds. Come on now. No shade, no tea. He's not. So on the 26th, so this is the day after Sarah was arrested, at 6:15, Jillian Berry made contact with Brian Boone at 4311, blah, 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 in reference to a suspicious picture of him and his son, Lucas Boone, incorrectly spelled. The pictures show Lucas Boone inside a large suitcase, partially zipped up, with a large smile on his face, both Brian and Lucas. In a sworn audio recorded interview, Brian Boone stated the picture was taken years prior and was before they were going on vacation. Brian Boone said Lucas was never unable to breathe and did not complain of any injury from climbing into the suitcase. The family joked about how big the suitcase was, so Lucas got inside to be funny, and they zipped it up for him, but he was not locked inside. This is the other thing, saying he was not locked inside. Do you guys think they put a lock on that suitcase? Or do you think the zipper wasn't? Because it's odd that he makes this statement that he was zipped up but not locked. So I'm just thinking conversely, then George was zipped up and locked. Do you know what I mean? Like, why is he making that distinction? But I guess maybe Sarah got rid of the lock by the time he got there. I don't know. Like, why wouldn't he mention that? Just questions. Brian Boone was unsure of who took the photograph, but believes it was Sarah. And he and Lucas are both in the picture and no one else was there. I also asked Brian Boone if there had ever been any allegations of abuse to Lucas, which he denied. Brian Boone stated he does not corporally punish Lucas either and has never noticed any injuries on Lucas beyond those of a normally active 9-year-old. Thank God, because she could have been like one of those mommy dearest drunks, and I'm glad that physically Lucas wasn't abused. I can't speak to his mental state. He stated earlier today, Lucas told him that sometime in the past, his mother hit him on the butt with a fly swatter, but he did not sustain any injuries from this and was laughing at the time of the incident. Brian Boone allowed me to speak with Lucas in another room without him present. In a sworn audio recorded statement, I asked Lucas about the picture. He stated he did not remember the picture, which he would have been 4 or 5 years old at the time. Lucas Boone also states that he hasn't been hurt by anyone and he would tell a police officer or adult if he was. Thank goodness. Based on my investigation, it appears a photograph was taken for fun at the request of a child preparing for a family vacation. There were no injuries and the child was not locked inside the suitcase for any extended period of time beyond that of taking a photograph. Okay, this is Chelsea doing an incident report on Sarah. Yum, yum. What are we listing here? Incident report. So Sarah had one. Jamron, that's the guy from Publix. George, he was on scene. So maybe, I'm not sure what we're listing here. Brian was there. They interviewed Vincent. Oh, they were young. Look at, this one was born in 99. This one was born in 2000. They're actually younger than my oldest. Abraham. So his birthday, wait, does he have the same birthday as Brian or is that a typo? At least the same date and month. 5/29/1967. And what's Brian's? Oh, it's 5/27/1975. Okay, so he's even older than Brian, but they're both born at the end of May. They're Geminis. Melissa, Juan. So all the people they interviewed, and then property, case packet, interviews, etc. Second degree murder. Date is February 24th. Time 1307. So that's the time they called his death. Here's where it says 504, 100 pounds. I know I saw someone else say 103. I think Yana, you said that, but I feel like either they're pulling some of these off of the licenses, but they would have likely, and it says he's 5'4" here. I've seen some other places where he's 5'3". It feels like they would have weighed him at the coroner's office, but presumably your weight changes because you have less fluid. I don't know. Oh, you got your finger stuck. Sorry. It's for your mouth, not for your finger. That's why I got stuck. That she's 5'3" and 140, and everyone was like, no way, she was 140 pounds at the time of her arrest. So it's just what's on there. So we're gonna go. I'm trying to. Oh my god, I should have marked the page. Where's the stuff about the? Okay, medico-legal. So remember that word from when we were reading about Michael Birkeland? This is the death investigator. So Ashley Hammermeister arrived to initiate the investigation for the medical examiner's office. Investigator Hammermeister took photos of the scene and supervised the collection. Is it stuck? There you go. Of the victim's body for transport. Dr. Sarah, oh my God, Zidovic, DO of the District 9's medical examiner's office conducted an autopsy. So she's the one they kept referencing in the interrogation with Sarah, like she wants to look at it longer, et cetera, et cetera. And then they gave the report number. He's playing with Duplos over there. So this is Vincent. This is Brian, Brandon, Abraham, Melissa, Juan. A lot of this is repetitive. But I do believe like both defense and prosecution have to comb through all of that looking for the discrepancies, like how we found the discrepancy between Sarah's testimony about the timing of the calls versus Brian's versus the call log. Because those, you know, again, well, specifically the defense, they've got to chip holes in everything. What happened? So this is repeating it all. She likes to maintain herself, unlike George. Sarah can do 50 things at once and still know the 50 things more previously prior that she needs to get done. If it's previously prior, doesn't that mean she already did them? I always thought that was such a weird sentence. Are you doing that on purpose? This only lists the 2 Publix receipts. There's one from the 22nd, though. So this is faxed over from Fire and Rescue, who were the first on the scene. Which they made this, but this is all redacted. So page 60 is black, 62. 42-year-old, this is the decedent information. The law enforcement case, time of death, death status, he was found that way. Date of exam was 2/25, pending further study. And here it says manner of death still pending. So it's interesting that they could arrest her on homicide while the manner was still pending. But I guess whatever it was caused as a result of the incident history detail. It was caused from him being inside of the suitcase. This is her calling, boyfriend is dead. So this is the call that came into fire and rescue. Kayla Rodriguez was the first LEO on the scene. Oh, are they? I always thought they were typing, but this looks like text. She tried to give CPR. FD is trying to give CPR instructions. So this is what's happening. They typed in, he is stiff and plea. Caller doing chest compressions. I don't know what all that is. Some other person, Eric. So maybe one or more of these people will come in, like the guy who was giving her instructions on. So this was at 2:22 that Chelsea and Scott showed up. So that's only 2.5. No, it's not. It's an hour and 22 minutes later. So they actually got there pretty quick. And then here are all these other people. 308, Kathleen Ella. I don't recognize these names. Let's look for the death investigator. This is the person that was downloading the phone. So she got there at 6:15. Or she did something at 6:15. I don't know what all these codes are. This is the calls for service. So this is all of the calls made to that address that are in the 911 log. So that's interesting. And they're all, well, these are priority twos. What was the one was Sarah arrested? That was it's not here, 2018. But they're each one of these. So one, it's like a verbal. I don't know what CM is. Verbal, battery, assistance. So maybe this was, no, that's in January. I'm not sure. Misdemeanor, because we know one of them was for parole or probation violation of the no contact order. I don't know what CM is, but these are all the calls that came in. So I don't see the 2018. Maybe there's only so long they retain them, but that's what the fire department. So this person, William Hinkey Jr., proved the application for an arrest warrant and affirms the emergency nature of the warrant is as outlined above. So exigent circumstances, I think, is what they're saying. The directions to get there. Your affiant is Corporal Nate Taylor. Okay, okay. Are you getting up? Okay, you're really all done. So, as a result of your affiant's training and experience, your affiant has probable cause to believe the following. On 2/24 at approximately 12:59 hours, Orange County deputies responded to Sarah's address in reference to a female reporting that her boyfriend was deceased. So he goes into all the reasons why he's seeking the warrant. Deputies confirmed he was deceased, and they called the on-call homicide detective Scott Lowen received the call. Lead detective Chelsea Copsell, along with Detective Scott Lowen and Corporal Taylor, responded to the scene. The decedent appeared to have a laceration to his lip. At this point in the investigation, it is uncertain what involvement Sarah O'Brien has. Your affiant is asking the court's authority to grant the search of the premise due to the death and the processing of evidence to ascertain what occurred. So it's exigent circumstances because he was found dead, right? You don't have weeks to get this. Like, you need to, they've already secured the place, but now they need to do all of the like DNA and whatnot. So they have probable cause to believe that firearms and firearm accessories, to include but not limited to unfired ammo, spent shell casings, magazines, bullet projectiles, and bullet fragments, DNA, to include but not limited to blood, hair, fiber, and skin cells, cellular devices, fingerprints, digital photographs, clothing worn by victim and or suspects, and any article identifying individuals involved. Also to be collected is a blue suitcase that the decedent was found in, which is evidence of a criminal violation under Florida statute 782, to wit, murder. Is currently being kept at the location whose address is Sarah's address. So requesting the issue of a search warrant. Also request authorization for use of a powered aerial device in accordance with FSS during the execution of the warrant in the interest of officer safety, to prevent an ambush or to locate anyone hiding in the residence. So they did that in the Robert Tejas case too, right? They sent in, what are they called? Why am I drawing a blank? The aerial vehicle rover? No, drone into the house. So that was requested on the 24th. He was placed under oath, although that's a different person than previously. The judge, Honorable John Marshall Kest, he's issued this warrant. Hereby commanded in the daytime, nighttime, or on Sunday, as the exigencies of the situation may require. I wonder if there's a rule like you normally can't do it on a Sunday, but whatever. He's saying exigent circumstances. Like when they did, what was her name? Jody in the Ruby Frank and Jody Hildebrandt's house. It was exigent circumstances and her attorney was on the phone. Like, what are you doing? Because if they didn't do it then, she would have the right to go back into her house and do whatever she wanted, potentially destroying evidence. So they have to do it. Leave a completed copy where the evidence is found and making a return of your doings after this warrant within 10 days. So they've got to document within 10 days what they did. John Marshall Kest, 9th Judicial Circuit. Inventory and receipt. Name a person you left a property form with at the place you searched, or if no one was home, put left at scene. So we know they gave Sarah something because she came in pointing at the paper like, well, what's happening with these swabs and what's happening? Like they had given her something of what they had taken. These are the phones, the laptop. She has a bachelor's degree. Chelsea does, from Central Florida. She's investigated numerous misdemeanor and felony crimes involving children and adults. Numerous courses pertaining to criminal law enforcement. Okay, great. Homicide investigation and really? Sex crimes investigation process, interview and interrogations, homicide investigation, and advanced homicide investigations. Interview and interrogations, I still wish she would have let Sarah answer when Scott said 5 minutes for what? Because the whole purpose of like the interrogations is to nail them to a story, right? It's been 4.5 years. She can make up whatever that is, assuming that interrogation gets in. But like 5 minutes for what? That shows her vindictiveness. Okay. Sarah called him back. Good Lord. A lot of this is over and over. based on your affiant's training and experience, knows that digital devices and digital storage are often used as instruments in criminal acts or are the fruits of a crime, as they have the ability to receive, store, process, and or send digital information. I mean, basically, our phones are like tracking devices. The aforementioned evidence sought from the digital device is in the form of digital information commonly known as computer files. Computer files include, but are not limited to, hardware, firmware, image files, video files, audio files, document files, downloaded files, email addresses, email records, IP addresses, internet chat content, chat records, social media accounts, usernames, passwords. That's why I like the authentication or multi-factor, because even if someone has your phone, they still need that second authentication to actually get your apps. Because back in the day, if anybody had your phone, they could get into all your apps that were on there, right? Like Facebook, Google Drive. But with the double authentication, even if they have managed to get your phone while it's unlocked, they're not going to be able to get in because they likely won't have that second authentication. So they requested the authorization to seize said digital devices and through a forensic examination, conduct an effective search of the said device to include but not limited to storage, blah, blah, blah. So that was her asking. She's the affiant, and this is the person who placed her under oath on the 25th of February. So he authorizes that on the 25th of February. Above inventory and receipt contains a true and detailed account of all the property taken. Wait, where's the above inventory? This is a separate document. Okay. So this we looked at before. The pillow with the stain, swabs from the pillow, suitcase, white cap with blood, and necktie with blood. I was thinking about this earlier today too, because remember Sarah said some of the stuff in the suitcase, although I don't know what else was in there, was for a donation. Maybe the necktie was in there for a donation, and because he ended up bleeding, he got blood on the necktie. Because I'm like, why would he have on a necktie from 11 o'clock the night before? You know, he probably had a white cap on because he always wears a cap. Wooden baseball bat, 2 wine bottles, 3 Publix receipts from trash. And that's Rough Garden. This is recorded interviews, 2 discs with audio recorded interviews. This is the guy from Publix and Black USB with the surveillance. They wouldn't let me have that. They said they don't give out surveillance videos. I guess unless after trial, but not pre-trial. So, and then they put in, this is the 8/21/2018, one of the arrest, battery, dating violence, no information notice. He was arrested July 25th of 2018. Man down. From the investigation which has been made, it is the opinion of the writer that this case is not suitable for prosecution. This action is taken to clear the records. So they did research this, so even though Owens was trying to imply that they didn't. So this is state of Florida versus Sarah Catherine Boone, right? Battery by strangulation, dating violence. And this was August 29th, 2018. I have that video on my channel if you want to see her getting arrested and her crazy story about a lighter. So this also was not prosecuted. George did not want to testify against her, but this is the one that she strangled him. And this is actually, it doesn't say it here, but I remember from researching it, this is a felony, the strangulation. The other ones are misdemeanors. So this is an arrest warrant. This is the 725 arrest warrant. Just, I'm not gonna, it's in the other video that I did. Oh, one of you guys sent me this, the name of the unknown bar. Yeah. So unable to complete a victim's request of confidentiality form. This is battery, dating, violence against George, 6/15/19. So it seems like if they were together in 2017, there were no incidents filed. I looked again under George's name today because Owens was saying like there were at least 6. I only see 4 in there, and they start in 2018. So if you guys know some tea on that, let me know, and I'll hunt it down. So this was his first no contact where there was nothing, and then it was eventually changed to like no hostile contact or something. So even if the victim wishes to have contact with you, the defendant must not have any contact with the victims until the court changes this no contact order in writing. That was the 16th of June, 2019. If only he had abided by that. This is the 15th of June. They were going hot and heavy. So here in 2019, it says they've been dating for 2.5 years. So that gets you, well, 2 years prior would have been 17. That would have been June of 17. So they would have been, to get to the half, it'd have to be January of 2017. I just don't find anything of them being together in January of 2017. So either they were very well behaved or still sitting in their representatives. Here's another one, state of Florida v. George Torres. Here's the judgment. So this is the one you guys were telling me. It was a pre-trial. So that was like, if you don't get in trouble for X amount of time, then this will not be, oh, it says adjudicated guilty though. So did he plead guilty and then the judge gave him probation? Either way, violation. Oh, this is the violation, sorry, of pretrial release conditions on domestic violence. So he was on pretrial release. He violated that by making contact, and he was adjudicated guilty of it. And that you don't need anyone to testify, just by the officers observing George in Sarah's apartment was a violation, right? He didn't have to touch her or anything else. So then here's where it was modified to no hostile contact with Sarah Boone. He pleaded no contest. What's the date? That is October of 2019. Good Lord. If only he had stayed away. So we're getting closer to his final days. And it seems he went back over there. So this is June 19th. There's his signature. I definitely know the syringe stuff was not this far back, so I'm going to have to go back to the beginning. Here's another one, September of 2019. From the investigation which has been made, it is the opinion of the writer that this case is not suitable for prosecution. This action is taken to clear the records, so a no information notice. And they're just copying everything, the whole file. August. I'm going to write them all out for 2019 because there's a lot of stuff going on. Victim had marks on the left side of her neck. Wait, is this the one where she didn't have her keys? Sarah Boone was in her bedroom sleeping. Oh no. When George woke her up, coming into the bedroom screaming and angry, George continuously punched Sarah in the neck and pulled her hair. She threw George off the bed when she feared he was going to bang her head on the marble windowsill. Really? That townhouse had a marble windowsill? Sarah Boone and George Torres have been dating. Oh, this says March 2016. So that's even earlier than that amount of time, because the other one, it would have been January of 2017. I don't know. I guess it depends on who you ask. So this says approximately 3 years, have no children in common. They do live in the same apartment as a family. During my interaction, she appeared angry. She was upset, continuously apologized, and state how fed up she was with being hit. Okay. They transported him to booking. Excuse you there, little man. This is another one. Okay, I'm going to go back to the beginning, but I'm going to take it off that. There's so much. I don't understand. I mean, I guess that's the case of the abuse. Like, why did he keep going back? Like, why couldn't he get away from her? The So if they really got together in March of 2016, then it seems like quite a while, like the violence didn't start happening, or at least police involvement in their violence, right? Because we don't know what was happening when nobody was called. Didn't start happening until 2018. Just seems like a long time, 2 years in, and then it got super violent. Or that's when the honeymoon was over, right? And she was done love bombing him. It just seems really strange. I am okay. My eyes are starting to hurt. Scrolling, even I'm hurting myself. I'll find it later and earmark it. But it was like a horrible relationship the entire time. Um, and Murdoch are the only ones I've watched thus far. I've been following Sarah's case only right to see it through. Yes. The other one, I tried to watch a little bit of the one of the college kids who got killed, whatever that guy's name is. I can't. I have a 4-year-old for my pretend grandchild. It's just the right amount of cute kid time. Oh my God. I can't wait, because then he'll be able to say more. It is oh my God. Which case are you refreshing every day, Yana? The Sarah Boone docket is very addictive. And I was trying to find Donna Adelson's last week when was it last week? Week before, it all blends together. But it's not the same, even though it's the same state, the format is very different. So I defaulted back to Sarah. You need baby time. Oh my God. So I don't know if you guys know, I'm a single mom by choice. It took me 5 years of IVF to get to Sugar Bear. So he was asleep, and then he decided to pop back up. I think when he hears me talking, it's like the dogs, although they've been remarkably quiet. At 11:59. Are you guys refreshing the docket right now? Oh my God. I'm hoping it's one of those ones that goes straight through, because remember how the judicial assistant said some of them, it has to be like a manual push. But again, yes, he does. He certainly does. Hey, Olive Oil. I don't understand, like, yeah, how he had time to go on Vinnie Politan and not. I mean, I get it. There's a whole team working on it, but I really would like for them to tighten their stuff up. Right? It's a little loosey goosey, sloppy. Would like for them to get it all the way together. Get in your citations. Get things in on time. I think he's trying to make the state call uncle and ask for an extension, because if the state asks, then I think the judge is going to have to give it to him. No, because once the jury is in, jeopardy attaches. But maybe, I don't know. Like I said, I was watching Uncivil Law, a little bit of it earlier before I picked up Sugar Bear, and he was saying it's too close to trial to like try to appeal a decision, so they'd have to do it afterward. I don't know. I don't know. The whole it all just makes me nervous, and his vagueness about like what Dr. Bannon is going to do. The Michael Birkland being out. Um, I'm confused about what they're saying about Julie Harper. If she's still going to be the primary one, or if it's Dr. Bannon. Like, why do you need both? I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I hope the state rips up that Julie Harper saw her 4 times before and did not come to that conclusion. I hope she does. I mean, she's going to impeach herself if they admit the interrogation and all the other stuff, and then she gets on the stand and says she was defending herself and she did kill him. Like, that's, were you lying then or are you lying now? They just look like yeah, oh my God. The jury can decide to strike your testimony and not take it into consideration. Absolutely. I want a verdict that will erase Sarah's smile forever. Justice for George. I do too. I wonder though if the smile is meant as a tactic, like to annoy people or as this type of front. Because even today, when we got to the second video, which I think I'm going to try to cut those two together, take the sound from one and add it to the court TV, whatever the other one was. I think I don't know. I have a cousin who does that. I feel like she's smirking to get under the skin. Like, girl, you don't have no reason to be over there smirking and smiling. You are full of it. You know what I mean? And then whoever she's mouthing, I love you to, Billy Lane or Chris Pena, Mr. J made it very clear that Brian didn't support Sarah. Yeah, they're calling him as a witness to say she was abusive and she was an alcoholic. So I would think that would be more of an image concern for oh, you found the duck, for Sarah, like being called a drunk over and over again. Do you know? Because she's gonna Brian's gonna say it. If they find Melissa Sexton, she's gonna say it. The neighbors are gonna say it. Like, if your nickname is Drunky the Bear, everybody knows. Everybody's gonna testify to that, right? So you're not gonna be able to get on the stand and say, I can't get drunk. And they also have the interrogation video. Do you guys think they'll show the whole interrogation video? Did you guys watch the Chandler Halderson case? I think it was 2021. And they had the trial. He killed his parents in the summer of 21, and they had the trial in January of 22. They played the whole interrogation. He didn't take the stand though, but the prosecution, and that was my most is that right? Not most favorite. That was my favorite opening statement ever. The opening statement in the Chandler Halderson case. But will they play it all? There were some nasty statements about Sarah in family court before that was sealed. Brian and the son are not fans of Sarah. Yeah, the son was saying, oh, I wish we had copies. The son was saying, what was it? Nobody cares about you or something like that. You're never coming home. And she was like, oh, it's so disrespectful. It's, imagine that hyena in his, I can't. She's got to be in flats. I can't. She was the biggest loser in life and doesn't have the ability to see that. And one of you, or maybe not a member, but someone sent me a long thing of how the judge also considers her inmate behavior and what her life was like prior as part of the sentencing. She's been awful, awful, awful. She's behaved awfully in jail. Nasty comments. And then what was she doing before? She was unemployed. She was drunk as early as 8 o'clock, according to witnesses. She was abusive to her ex-husband, abusive to her. Well, she murdered him. Not even a halfway decent parent, couldn't remember to pick her son up, and had to be reminded. Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't have to remind me to come and get my dogs, let alone my child. So I just don't think it bodes well for her. And because she has no contrition, I mean, zero, she could do it again. I'm not saying via suitcase, but somebody else, she could be reckless with somebody else's life and they would be gone. And she'd be like, oh, it was their fault. I was defending myself, That's what I said, Trinity. I asked that. Everybody was like, no, he'll tell. I was just like, maybe he'll be scared to face her and be like, But I guess if you tell the truth, you know for sure you'll never have to worry about her again. She doesn't. She just doesn't. Even her like aura, just sitting there, she's not like. Well, she was scaring me when she was doing the side eye. Like that was evil. Um, the video is going to convict her the way the children in the backyard got Daybell. Follow the evidence to the logical conclusion. Yes, Amy, we need logical jurors, but I trust Judge Kranick's voir dire will weed out the weirdos. Yeah. Yeah, because how is he going to get that out? He hinted at it in what he filed today that it was obtained under coercion, her phone. Like she sort of bowed to them and acquiesced and gave her phone. But he didn't like, what's his face? Mr. J was saying he didn't file anything. It's always he tests out the waters for, not June Cleaver. Oh my God. Although between you and I think June Cleaver had a martini or two in the afternoon. I'm just saying. Now her urgency for the makeover is even more silly. Yeah, it's all she needs is one juror to sympathize with her, just one. But Lisa, that only gets her a mistrial. She'd still have to do it all over again. Do you know? Now, what was it? The lady who put her husband under the fire pit, that was in Florida. She didn't have a jury of 12. What is the rule in Florida for murder 2? Like, do you get 12 jurors? I feel like she had 6 or 8 when it was all said and done. We don't do that in California or New York. So I think she was looking at Billy Lane, summa cum laude. I think she was looking at Billy Lane. Because before it was hard to tell when Owens was there, if she was like, even though he wasn't paying attention to her, if she was just like giddy about Owens, but she was looking off in that direction. Today, she was sitting in the same spot looking in the same direction. I believe it was Billy Lane. But some people were saying it could have been her jailhouse girlfriend over there. But whatever it was, like she knows the cameras are watching. She's doing it for effect. Yeah, it was. I think she was doing it for effect. Yeah, she thinks she's going home. Well, she even wrote the letter to D. Giovanni, like, I'm on my way home at last. She calls it a show. Let's get the show on the road. It's just a bother on her way home. Do you know? But that's the other thing. Where would she go when she was released, right? Like, what contribution could she make to society? She's going to be released homeless, right? They don't. If she, let me not put that in the universe. If she were in some alternate universe to be released, she has no place to go. I'm sure Brian and Lucas are not trying to have her in their space, absorbing that, her energy. Her brother sounded like he wasn't about the foolishness because he has his background check or his security clearance, to worry about, So where would she go? What would she do? Someone said she used to be a waitress, which I find that odd, but I mean, at this age, she'd be a Denny's waitress or I don't know what other, like a Cracker Barrel, IHOP type of. I mean, you're gonna be 48 waiting tables. I worked at a Denny's when I was like 18 or 19. It was all older ladies, and they were grumpy. They went out back to smoke cigarettes. They got the good shifts. So, is that a meaningful contribution? Apparently, she likes to clean. She cleans a lot while she's in the jail. So she's helpful there. David M, thank you. Is that David M from the membership over on Gossip, Rumor, and Innuendo with a different picture? Or did you always have a Ken doll picture? Oh my God, I love that picture. I don't remember it though. Yeah, it's so. What would she do? I feel like she would immerse herself immediately back into Lucas's life. If any of you guys watch, oh my God, what is the judge I'm always talking about? The one with the purse and the flowers. It'll come to me. But if you watch her, she's always like, when you get out, don't just insert yourself into your kid's life. You have to ease back in and earn their trust. She doesn't know any boundaries. She would be like at his school and, like just really legitimately, what value would she have back out in society? She would be a drain on society. She won't be eligible for unemployment. Who knows who will hire her? She would have 2 felony charges, convicted or not. It's just like, and then even to give her like 40 years and she comes out, then she hasn't worked long enough. Well, maybe. I don't know what her work history is. I know she hadn't worked for 2 years prior to her arrest, and she's been in jail for it. So she hasn't worked in the last 6.5 years. Yeah, like I think the judge has to factor all that into like what her sentence is. She just hasn't been a productive member of society. Ooh. I don't think he's going to. Suppression on the Miranda violation is not going to go. I just don't see it. He didn't cite any cases, and he has no. All the elements of the Miranda are there. I think Mr. J stated it perfectly in his response today, which I put in a video. One of them, the state claps back. I don't think that'll get suppressed. If he tries to suppress the suitcase videos, I don't know how that would even be possible, but he hasn't even tried yet. I think whatever medical examiner claims that she has the battered spouse syndrome and can use that as a defense is going to get grilled by the state, especially the state said they've already had their expert on deck for a minute. Now, granted, that expert is not meeting with Sarah until next Wednesday, but as far as like the expert will be able to see if Sarah is malingering, if she actually has it. But I don't know that it's actually going to get to trial. I don't know exactly how the criteria works, but I feel like they are not going to put that up in front of the jury. It just, if nothing is suppressed and everything gets in, it won't make sense. The jury will see it for what it is, like a last ditch effort to save her ass, So I was worried before, but I'm like, that the video alone, 2 minutes and 22 seconds of that man begging for his life. And then when in the second video where it's flipped over, you could tell he's even like weaker. His voice is fainter. He's getting frustrated. He's trying to figure out, like, should he sweet talk her? Do you know? Because even the other one, he was like, I can't fucking breathe, babe. Like trying to let her know, but she was so drunk. She couldn't recognize it. And I think even if we go with the argument, oh, she was too dumb to know that someone could suffocate in the suitcase, right? No good can come from it. And if he got out, if she legitimately thought he got out, wouldn't he come and kick your ass? Although I guess not. Like, how you sit on your legs and they go numb? I'm sure parts of him were going numb. We're not supposed to be bent up like a pretzel. My heart breaks for him. I can't even imagine like what his last minutes on earth were like. Reminds me of something I heard on LawTube. When a defendant has no case, they put the victim on trial. Right. But there seems to be pretty strong case law. They're not going to be able to like slander him. And that's what Mr. J was saying. Even if it's more, oh my God. If it's not probative or if it's, I can't remember now, but you guys know what I'm saying. They won't be able to enter that into evidence. Because he's not here to defend himself. Do you know? And so, yeah. The reports can't come in because they're hearsay, like some of the reports we just looked at. And also, no one ever saw them well, no, one of the neighbors recorded a video, but are they going to be able to find that neighbor physically hitting each other? But specifically George beating up Sarah, right? Everyone said, oh, he said he was defending himself or whatever, or Sarah said this, but did they actually see it? Did it actually happen? To be seen. So I think that's the other thing. I just hope that Judge Cranick can rein in all the circusy part, because if George's parents are there, particularly his mother, like nobody wants to hear your murdered son be dragged through the dirt. Do you know? Which I believe is one of the reasons why Owens, bless you, wants to go through the battered spouse bit so he can drag George through the mud. But first, you have to prove she has the syndrome, not just that she was battered. And Mr. J hinted at that last thing. Like, did he take her phone away? Did he isolate her? None of that went on. If that's the criteria, George, was a battered spouse, right? So we'll see. Uh-oh. Can you guys not hear me? Oh, you said Sugar Ray. No, I muted him for a second so I could put him on. This is 9:52. We're at 10:33. Oh my God. Here he comes again. All right, I'm gonna get my little guy to bed. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I appreciate you. Wait, I'm gonna play these, see how they work. Surprise. And then I have this one. Okay, sir. All right. You want to come and say goodbye? Toodles. We'll talk to you later. Thanks, everybody.